If you're frustrated that your team aren't getting tasks done or doing the work you need them to do, then in this video, I'm going to share with you how to use psychology to get your team to follow through. If you're new here, my name's Byron Morrison. I'm the author of Think Like a CEO. And on my channel, I put out videos on mindset, leadership, and becoming more effective in your role. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss future videos. Now, in order to talk you through this, I'm going to share with you a real world example of someone implementing this strategy so that you can see this in action and get a better idea of how you can use it yourself. So, when I met one of my past clients, she had just taken a new position as an executive leader, and one of her role responsibilities was managing a sales team. It was essentially their focus to drive revenue and growth, and they did this by attending events, visiting potential clients, and also following up with leads. The problem, though, was she found there was an incredibly toxic work environment. People weren't following through, no one was on the same page, and there was a ton of blame and excuses about why they weren't hitting their targets. She tried to change this by implementing new processes where every single day people would check in, they would share with everyone what they were going to do, what sites they were going to visit, or what they were going to be following up with. And she wanted to get them to feedback at the end of the day about their numbers, their results, so everyone could see on a top level what was happening. The problem was people just weren't doing it. And no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't get them to follow through. When she talked me through the problem, what I explained to her is people don't like being told what to do. We could talk about all the reasons why they should and how frustrating it is that they're not listening, but it doesn't change human behavior and the way that we think. And the more that she tried to force it, the more that they pushed back. It's a lot like kids where you tell them to do something and they get all this internal resistance where they fight you at every step. And yes, she could put her foot down and she could enforce expectations and put people on improvement plans. And it may very well have got to that stage. But I said to her before going with the nuclear option, let's try a different approach. What she'd been doing in previous meetings was going in and telling the team what they needed to do, which essentially made it her against them. So I said to her that the way that we need to turn this around was by creating a common enemy. In this situation, it was the board. She was going to go into the next meeting and say to the team, look, the board have set all of these new goals and targets. These are the new expectations that we need to hit. Then instead of it being her against them, she needed to reposition herself on the same side by opening the conversation and saying to the team, like, this is the new goal. What do we need to do about it? People started talking about how, well, they needed to drive more sales. And then she was able to ask leading questions about, well, what do we need to do to make it happen? How do we track that? What do we need to do to monitor it and make sure everyone's on the same page? People started coming up with all of these ideas about how it'd be useful if they knew what everyone else was doing, how if they shared every single morning what their actions they were going to take, they would then have a better understanding about everything that was going on, and how if at the end of the day people fed back what they did, it would then give them a top level idea of exactly what was happening. These were the exact processes she'd been trying for months to implement, but by her getting the team to think for themselves, they thought it was their idea. It was almost like positive manipulation, but when people come up with ideas for themselves, they're far more likely to stick to it. And this then also made it easier for her to hold them accountable to the things that they agreed to do. Not only did this make her life easier, it also turned that toxic environment into a collaborative one because people started to see the benefit of working together towards a common goal. This is why if you want to develop as a leader and bring out the best in your team, you need to understand the way that people think, because when you do, you're going to have a much easier time getting them on board. So the way that you can do this yourself is, instead of telling your team what they need to do, look for opportunities to coach them. Present them with a problem and then start talking through ways that they can approach them. Ask for their ideas, the actions they need to take, what would success look like. Once you've talked through potential solutions, you can then go through, what do they need to do in order to feed back? How do they need to monitor progress? What accountability needs to be in place? By getting people to think for themselves, this is how you're going to get them to come up with ideas that they're far more likely to stick to. And this is also how you can get them to buy into the process and what needs to get done, which ultimately is going to make it a lot easier for you to get them to follow through with the things that they need to do. So there you have it. This is how you can use psychology to get your team to take the actions they need need to take. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments below. What ideas or situations do you see that you could test this in? Share it below because it may just help someone else who's struggling with this area of their role. And if you want to develop your mindset further, then in the description of this video, you can grab a copy of my book, Think Like a CEO, where I'm going to show you how to up level your way of thinking so you can stop reacting, make better decisions, and master the mental game needed to be a highly effective leader. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss future videos. I've been Byron Morrison. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.